In the interview, you know the deal. The midterms are just over a week away, and our statewide races have garnered national attention. Arguably, none more than the gubernatorial race, where the numbers continue to tighten. Some polls this month putting Governor Whitmer up over Tudor Dixon by just a few points, well within the margin of error. I asked political expert Dave Dulio if we can call a clear leader right now. In short, he says that's kind of hard to do. Here's the longer answer.
What they're trying to do is tell us who's going to win, right? And I think that that's hard. I mean, if you're asking me to say who's ahead or who's behind, I think Gretchen Whitmer's ahead by a small margin. And it's really, you know, if the election were held today, she'd probably win. But the election's not held today. And it's going to be determined, I think, by who is going to do the better job of turning out their supporters.
We're seeing the tide turn in terms of what voters are caring about. CNN had a really interesting poll showing that the number one thing for Michiganders right now, 46% of people in Michigan believe that the economy, inflation are huge, more so than any of the social issues that the Democrats have been touting. That can't bode well for Governor Whitmer. Those voters likely would want a change. Is that probably true?
There's no question about that. As you say, the party in power generally, usually, almost always suffers at the midterm, right? And that is just a historical pattern that has only been broken twice in the last 39 midterm elections. It goes back more than 100 years, right? That pattern, and it is. I think Democrats got a little false sense of security over the summer when the economy took more of a backseat to the issue of abortion. Well, that has changed now in the last month or so. So the economic concerns, as you say, are starting to outweigh those social issues, and that's a recipe for success for Republicans.
If you look at Prop 3, which, to let viewers know, that effort to enshrine a right to an abortion in Michigan, on its merits as a way to protect access to abortion, then you would think that the vote for Prop 3 would fall along pro-life, pro-choice voters in Michigan. And it is true that there are more, according to polling that's been done, according to Pew Research, more pro-choice voters in Michigan than there are pro-life voters. However, the number of people who support Prop 3 has fallen substantially in the polling. I mean, in September, we were looking at like a 60-30 split, and now it's closer to 54 in favor and 45 against. Is it less a referendum on whether you believe there should be some access to abortion in Michigan and more about the actual proposition itself?
So I think that there's a couple things happening here, right? And it might be that the polls that have been done recently are picking up voter enthusiasm factors where, you know, maybe in the prior polls, and we'd have to dig into the specifics on this, but in the prior polls, maybe Democrats were more energized at that point in time versus now when Democrats may be less energized. And I think that there's reason to believe that that's the case, given the fact that President Obama was here over the weekend to do basically a get out the vote event with the Whitmer campaign. I also think that the groups that have been messaging against Prop 3 have done an effective job, right? They're not saying no to abortion. They're saying this amendment is too extreme and too confusing, right? And I think that gets at the subtleties that are in voters' minds, in many voters' minds about this issue.
And as is often the case, voter turnout is always key. The election is November 8th. And as you know, we also have been following very important congressional races that could also help determine the balance of power in the House of Representatives. So watch this space closely.